I call it Success Accelerator. It is spelled what appears to be wrong, but it's not. It is spelled that way on purpose, which will make more sense. It is about speeding up the way that you excel, which would be, really hitting your goals. And by the way, we do lots of different free events. So this is an example of what we call personal fuel. Personal fuel is where we work on mindset and goal, energy and focus and that type of stuff. We also have business training events. So we have an event on July 8th that focuses on authentic marketing techniques, and then another one on finding your purpose. So feel free to attend any of their events. They're our way of serving conscious founders and making the world a little bit better. Just one slide about Shiftco, and then I'll jump in. We train what we call conscious entrepreneurs. Conscious entrepreneurs are doing business in intentional ways. We train them how to grow your business and maximize your impact. 86.3% of our members have doubled their revenue, usually in a year, sometimes two, depending on where they start with us. And we serve people all the way from 0 up to 10 million. So we've had a lot of success. And what we believe is when you double a business that's making the world better, you actually can triple its impact. So that's a little bit about us. My background, how on earth I got to doing this, is I've had multiple large exits, including being president of an internet company that did an IPO. So I've been doing this business thing for a long time. And then I had this purposeful awakening in 2009, which was a long time ago. I'm older than I look. And I just realized that I was growing things that didn't matter, and I just couldn't do that anymore. So I decided that I was going to stop doing that, and I was only going to grow things that matter. So I set up a purposeful Shark Tank. And we have a speculator fund that invests in purposeful ideas. An example of that is Your Izzy, which is the first zero waste makeup and skincare line. They're an amazing company, an amazing makeup and skincare, but it's 100% zero waste. It's all recyclable, really cool stuff. Then we have what we call the cultivator. The cultivator creates our own companies. Shiftco is one of those companies. So that's my background, which, as you can see, led me to the way that I serve folks like you and the methodology that I'm going to be teaching you today. So I'm going to have you interacting with me a little bit in the chat because I really want to get to the why behind the what of why this methodology works. So my question is, why do founders need, and I mean need, it's not like a nice to have, why do you need to really have access to your inner power? Anybody want to put anything in the chat? And then Lisa, if you wouldn't mind shouting that out, that would be awesome, whatever goes in the chat there. Why do we need access to true power, which is inner power, which is what today is all about? I'm going to teach you how to access it consciously, deliberately. What's coming up, Lisa?
Resilience from all rejections. It's everything, helps with confidence, keeps us moving forward, our foundation to grow our impact. It's the truth of us, a guiding light, your purpose on continuous growth.
Love it. And I'm going to boil it down. Failure us to lose or question our value. I mean, it does. And the funny thing about entrepreneurship, I had been part of startups for a vast majority of my career. I'm 60, so I've been doing this for a long time. And then I started my own business in 2002 thinking, I got this. I've been part of several startups. We sold them. We did an IPO. I got this. And it was failure after failure after failure after failure. And for 2 years, I felt like I did nothing but fail. And I questioned my value. I started thinking about going back to corporate America. I mean, I was like, oh, what am I doing? And so when you start a business and it's your business, you can't point to anywhere else other than you. And so what happens is there's this constant sense of I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I don't know how. And then it morphs from that into questioning, did I get lucky? Can I really do this? Does it have to be this scenario versus that scenario? And we just question our value. And then the more we question our value, the worse it gets and the hole gets deeper. So that happened to me as well in 2002 when I started this business. For 2 years, I felt like I failed. And I couldn't find the switch to get back into a state of power. So I'm going to have you do an assessment. And again, Lisa, shout these out. How much on a percentage basis, and tell the truth, you don't know most of the people here, how much power potential do you really feel like you're using? How much of that are you really tapping into where you feel like I'm in my zone, I'm in control of my thoughts and feelings? What percent would you put out there? Lisa, shout them out for me.
30, 75, 50, 50, 60, 40, 40, 25-ish.
Okay, so a wide range, but all on the mid to lower range. I want to get you guys into the green today and show you how to do 2 practices where you move to the 75 to 100%. Because guess where you need to be successful as a founder? You need to be 75 to 100%. And all of the things that don't work out cause us to go from the green to the yellow to the red, and our emotions go up and down, and we ride the roller coaster up and down in our business, and we feel like we can't stay that 75 to 100%. And I was there too. So 2002, 2003, I was ready to quit. I started looking for a job. And I got very close to taking a job. I didn't get the job. I go back crying to my coach, and my coach said, Terry, I want you to get on the phone and I want you to call 10 people that are successful founders and find out what they had in common. I did that. They only had one thing in common, and that was the ability to have perseverance and tap into power. I couldn't believe it was that simple. She says, call 90 more. Sure enough, on the phone for 2 weeks, calling entrepreneurs. Can I just interview you really quickly? What's the cause of your success? It all boiled down to the ability to tap into this reservoir that we all have of power and mindset. And so I became fascinated with that. And then I started thinking about the things that caused me to lose that power. Examples: we lose a large client. Everything is going great. I feel like I've got momentum. We lose a client. What happens? We slide back down that. We move into the yellow and the red. Someone criticizes us. And as a founder, that happens a lot. Customers, vendors, agencies, someone criticizes us, gives us feedback we don't like. Or we experience cash flow issues, and we experience cash flow issues in our business, and we thought it was going to be easier. We thought we'd be making more money. These are just a few examples, and they all cause us to have that power battery go from the green to the yellow to the red. So if you think about it, it starts to happen to our thoughts. When something external happens, it's harder than we thought. We lose a project. We didn't get selected in a proposal. We lose a client. What happens to our thoughts? And feel free to put that in the chat, and Lisa, shout that out, because this is at the heart, switching this mental game so that we stay in the green zone. What's coming in, Lisa?
Nothing yet. Maybe pose the question again.
Yeah, so when something happens externally that throws us off the game, what happens to our thoughts? What kinds of things do we start thinking? Where do our thoughts go?
Shifts from what's possible to negative thoughts, self-doubt, focusing on the negative, focusing on the loss, the downward spiral of low efficiency. What else could go wrong?
What else could go wrong? Exactly. And I call that all what if downing. So every time, now think about this. Every time something external, we look at our bank balance, we didn't get a proposal, we lose a client, someone criticizes us. we didn't hit the goal that we set for ourselves, any of that. And then we start this what if down cycle. And the next thing you know, we're from the green to the yellow to the red. I was in the same spot. And then I started thinking about athletes. I'm going to show a couple of my favorite athletes. They have this amazing ability because athletes fail more than they succeed, truly. Just look at statistics, batting averages, shooting averages. We just saw the NBA playoffs. I'm a big WNBA fan. Football, and think of their stats. Most of the time, they're all below that 500% or 50% mark, depending on the sport, because they fail more than they succeed. But yet they have this ability to get themselves back up and keep moving forward. And they have phrases. I'm going to come back to these phrases. Michael Jordan's was winning is fun. This amazing skier, Lindsey Vonn, great stories behind her. Hers was I can. She came back after horrific injury and got a gold medal. Ronaldo, great soccer player, my favorite football player. His phrase is just be great. The swimmer who swam from Cuba to Key West was find a way. And then one of the all-time greatest tennis players, hers is yes. So they have a way to get themselves into a powerful mindset. But leaders do it too. Richard Branson, his motto, whenever he gets frustrated or scared or anxious, he's like, just have fun. And then she's able to shift to just have fun, just play. Oprah's is I'm the master of my fate. Mark Cuban's, his phrase, he always goes back to what he feels like is his end game, which is sales cure all. So this thing didn't work, sales cures all, get back on the horse and go make it happen. Whitney Wolf, there's a great story behind Whitney Wolf. We don't have time for it today, but she was part of a very successful company. I won't go into the details. Some things happened. She left, and then she tried to raise funds for another company and got turned down and turned down and turned down. And she developed this phrase, you'll see, you'll see. And then one of my favorite stories, I don't know if you remember, this was about, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago. And these kids, I think it was in the Philippines, they had been exploring and they got trapped in the cave. And this is from the movie that was about their life. And their coach, who's sitting in the middle, taught them meditation. And they were in this cave for a very long time with really no food and the kind of water you would not be drinking. And he taught them this phrase and taught them to meditate. And the phrase was fear isn't real. And he got all of the kids, all of them survived. He got all of them out of the cave. It was a great story, a great movie. So I remember as I was watching these different stories and thinking, how do they do that? How do they get themselves, an athlete throws an interception and they come right back out. They made a mistake. They had a failure. They come right back out and they get right back in the game. Like nothing ever happened. Like, how do they do that? Because as an entrepreneur, that's what we have to learn how to do. We have to have the failure, throw the interception, but get ourselves right back in the game. So I started studying, how do you actually do that? And I remembered a time that I had in college. So I grew up, both of my parents were raging alcoholics. We were very, very poor. I was able to escape this horrific environment and went away to college. Long story we don't have time for. And I found out I was actually smart and I started getting good grades and I was on my way, but I was not good in science and math. And I kept avoiding those classes. And I got to the end of my senior year with a very high GPA. And I needed to take a statistics class and a science class to graduate. And I was like on my last semester and I had put it off and put it off and put it off. And the science class, there was this one professor where he took pride in failing people like me. I was an education major. And you walk in, there's 80 or 90 people in the class and he starts. 50% of you are going to drop the class today. Of the 50% that remain, another 20% will drop it in 2 weeks. Less than 20% of you will actually keep this class. And most of you guys are going to get C's. I mean, that was how he opened the class. So sure enough, class is over, close the book, walk. I start walking to the registrar's office thinking I'm dropping this sucker. There's got to be another way. I'm not, I'll put off graduation. And as I'm walking through the campus in Indiana, because that's where I was going to college, I came to this fork in the road, and on the right was to the registrar's office and the left was to the library. And I set my book bag down. I'll never forget this. And I thought, this is a choice, and I have a choice. I remember this feeling of power coming over me. And I picked the book bag up and I put it on my shoulder and said, I am going to figure this out. I don't know how, I don't know when. And I started marching the stairs to the library. I'm going to get a book. I'm going to get help. I don't know, but I'm not quitting. And I remember in every cell in my body feeling this power. And sure enough, not only did I get help and, all that kind of stuff, but I got an A- in his class. And he made a big deal about it at the end. But the power that I felt at that moment of making a decision and I remember saying, I am going to do this. And that phrase, every step that I was taken to the library, and it was, way across the campus. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And my physical body changed, my energy, my breathing changed. So I was thinking about this when I was failing as an entrepreneur. And I was like, Terry, you've done this before where you've been on the brink of failure. What did you do? And I began studying how do you systematically tap into the power to get yourself back up and succeed. And then I started testing it myself, and then eventually with founders that I invested in, and then eventually folks in Shifco. We teach these tools to everybody in Shifco. It boils down to two things. So, and this is what I call Success Accelerator. There's two power tools that I'm going to teach you today. And y'all are going to be a test. I'm going to follow up with you in 7 days after I teach you these two tools. I want you using these two tools. We're going to see where you are. 7 days is all it's going to take. The first tool is you have to be able to change the negative mindset. And by the way, this is the step most people skip. They try to go right to the positive mindset and they don't realize there's something before it. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. I'm going to teach you how to get out of the negative what if downing that we talked about a minute ago. And then the second thing is you need to develop the ability to create instantly a new positive mindset. And if you think about it, it's not that complicated. It's just that the negative mindset is so strong that it's running us. Particularly if you've been doing the entrepreneurial thing for a month or 3 months or 6 months or more, the longer you've been doing it, deeper the negative what if down pathways are. Okay. The good news is it doesn't take long to change them, but we have to address that first. And the challenge is we focus when we're trying to shift, we focus and think we need to just create a success mindset. We watched Patrick Mahomes, again, one of my favorite football players. He throws an interception, he drops the ball, and he shifts and he has the ability to go right back out there and game on. And we assume that he just created a success mindset. That isn't what athletes do. As I started studying them, they don't start there. What they do first is they alter the negative program first. And each of them have slightly different ways of these great athletes and great entrepreneurs and great leaders. They all have different ways of doing it. I've boiled it down to a really simple tool that I'm going to teach you. They alter the negative program first. After they're out of the what if down loop, then they install the new success mindset. You think about it, that's what we're doing wrong. We're trying to jump to a success mindset before we've altered the negative program. So how do you alter the negative program? That's where we have to start. Well, all of our negative programs live, and I mean live, they're taking rent up in a spot in your brain called the amygdala. And what the amygdala does is it processes emotions, fears, anxiety, and it links them to old memories. Well, and it's going to link you back to that time that you failed in seventh grade when you ran for student council. And it's going to take you back to the time you didn't get picked for the kickball team when you were in third grade. It's got these old memories and it's got the emotions linked to them, and it creates programs that your brain is now replaying. So think about when something goes wrong, you don't win a proposal, or you don't get a lead that week, or pick any of it. And that what if downing starts. And the next thing you know, you're not just thinking about this current failure, you're thinking about last week's failure and last month's failure. And what if I was lucky 3 years ago? And then you're thinking about childhood. You've got this memory bank of these perceived failures and challenges stuck in the amygdala. It's literally taking rent in your head. And there's 5 negative programs. 5. Okay. The first one, and the most common, because I did a research project on this about 10 years ago, is I'm not good enough. 98% of all people that I surveyed, was thousands and thousands of people were surveyed when I was studying this, had this program in their amygdala. So we all have this. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. Yada, 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 yada. I'm not enough. The second program, sorry for the dog barking, is the I can't program. And if you've been, sorry, my dog is very loud. If you've been stuck in a negative program for a while, the powerless program takes over. And then you start saying, I can't do this anymore. I can't do sales. I can't do lead gen. I can't do networking one more time. And that I'm not good enough starts growing into a second program, and it's the I can't program. It's powerless. The third one is sneaky. The third program is what I call the Atlas program. And the Atlas program is where we feel like we're going to take the world on our shoulders. I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to do this. I have to do that. And then program 4 is the failure program. Here I go again. I'm doing it again. Here I go. And, and boom, boom, boom. And then the 5th one is I call the imposter program. The imposter program is, who am I to think I can start this business? Who am I to think I'm an expert at coaching? Who am I to think I'm this? Who am I? And so some combination of these negative programs are running in the amygdala, and they're running constantly. And every time something doesn't work the way that we want, which as an entrepreneur is a vast majority of the time, one of these programs kicks in and it's running us. And yet we're over here thinking, I just need to shift my mindset. But this program is like, and it's running like in 10th gear. So if you think a gear shift, it's running. And you're over here trying to think positive. No. We got to stop the negative program first. So the first tool I'm going to teach you today is how to do that very quickly. It doesn't take long. It just has to be a little bit of repetition and a very specific process to switch the amygdala off. We have to turn it off, and we have to activate another part of our brain to override the amygdala to get these negative programs to stop. Okay. So that's what you're going to learn how to do in a minute. So what we're going to do, and I call it the success switch, is we're going to switch off the amygdala, which is running this negative program that's got this bank, this reservoir bank of all of our failures in the past that it's regurgitating. And we're going to turn on the prefrontal cortex, which regulates our thoughts, interactions, and emotions. And we're going to use the prefrontal cortex to reprogram the amygdala, basically. And we're going to activate the prefrontal cortex using our body, using our parasympathetic nervous system to override that negative program and begin to reprogram it. And again, it doesn't take long, as you'll see, and it's very simple. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do. I call it the success switch. And the key is you have to do this first. So I have to turn off the negative program before I can build a new pathway with a positive program in it. And it's 3 steps. I'm going to have you do the 3 steps separately, and then I'm going to have you do them together. And that's going to be how you'll learn it. So step number one, the amygdala is dumb. It is the dumb part of the brain. It is running on autopilot. And so it's not hard to reprogram. It's got that story in there that's running. But the amygdala, because it's dumb, it either rides on this historical yada, 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 or it takes direction from the boss of the brain, which is the prefrontal cortex. So we got to switch the amygdala off, and we have to activate the prefrontal cortex, and the prefrontal cortex is going to reinstall a new program in the amygdala. Okay. So step number one, again, we're going to do 3 steps separately, and then you're going to put them together, is you're going to acknowledge the negative program. And the way that you do that, and I want you to make sure you're on mute and do that with me, is you say, the truth is I feel, and whatever comes up, comes up. So do that with me now. Make sure you're on mute. The truth is I feel frustrated, scared, anxious, whatever it is, whatever comes up, comes up. No judgment. Don't even wonder why it's there. It doesn't matter. And then pause for about 20 seconds. So do that with me now. The truth is I feel, and pause and wait. I'll tell you what's going to happen next. So you're probably noticing your brain and your thoughts slowing down. When you say that phrase, the truth is I feel, the amygdala says, oh, you heard me. It's time for new information. I will start downshifting, and I'll stop running this program, downshift, and it goes into neutral. And it takes somewhere between 15 to 30 seconds, depending on how strong and how fast it's running. Not very long. 15 to 30 seconds of that pause, and the amygdala goes into neutral, and it stops running that negative, I can't program, I'm not good enough program, whatever it is. That's all it takes, 15 to 30 seconds. Again, we're going to do it all together in a minute, but I just want you to get that first step. So that's step number one of this first part. Now, step number 2 is the amygdala is now paused so it can take new information. When it's running really fast and running the negative program, it can't take new information. So now we're going to put the boss of the brain in charge, the prefrontal cortex, and we're going to activate what's called the parasympathetic nervous system to wake the prefrontal cortex up and say, dude, you're the general of the brain. You're the captain of my ship. Get back in charge of this crazy thing called my brain. And the way that you do that is breathing a certain way. It's very simple. You breathe in through the nose and out of your mouth. Pause. You'll notice with that first breath, you might feel a little lightheaded. What's happening is the prefrontal cortex just switched on. And when you breathe like that, in through your nose and out of your mouth, it turns on your parasympathetic nervous system, and it starts dumping dopamine and serotonin hormones into your bloodstream. So that's why you feel that little bit of a kind of lightheadedness. Breath number 2, same breath. All 4 breaths are the same breath. In through your nose, nice and deep. And out of your mouth. With breath 2, you can feel your blood pressure coming down. Breath 3, just a little bit deeper. Wow. And then breath 4 is just ah. In through the nose and out of the mouth. Ah. What's happened now with step 2 is the amygdala is off. The prefrontal cortex is on. Your parasympathetic nervous system, which is a very important piece of stress reduction, is now turned on. It is released hormones, serotonin and dopamine in particular, into your bloodstream, which start going into the amygdala, and it makes it very squishy and very programmable. I can't say that word. And so that's step 2. So right now, your amygdala is relaxed, your body is relaxed, your parasympathetic nervous system is now dominant. And the amygdala will take whatever you give it, whatever the prefrontal cortex gives it right now, and it will hold it. And basically creates a new program. So that's step 3. Step 3 is we're going to claim a new belief, a new empowering thought. So it's the opposite of whatever came up, whatever program's running you. I am good enough. I can do this. I am the captain of my ship. It doesn't matter what you say. It's claiming the opposite of that negative program. I can do this. Oh, yes, I can. You better believe it. And now you're just kind of allowing yourself, kind of putting a little power into it. I like to give myself a couple little rocky punches. And now the amygdala is now taking in this new direction from the boss of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. And it's like, oh, it's time to get our power game on. You'll notice you feel completely different. Let's do the 3 things all together. You'll see just how ridiculously easy this is. I call this first step. This is all the first step of called the success switch. And we're switching off the amygdala. We're switching on the prefrontal cortex. And then we're programming the amygdala to relax and take direction. Okay. So let's do it all together. It's ABC. Now I like to keep stuff very simple. I'm a simple person. The truth is I feel. Whatever comes up, comes up. Truth is I feel a little bit better. No judgment. Pause for 15 to 30 seconds. The truth is I feel, pause. When you feel the amygdala go into neutral, which is a lot easier the second time than it was the first, turn on the prefrontal cortex and the parasympathetic nervous system. 4 breaths, same breaths, in through the nose and out of your mouth. Nice and slow. First breath, you feel lightheaded, a little deeper each time. Second breath, you feel your blood pressure coming down. Breath 3. And then breath 4. Ah. Prefrontal cortex is in charge. The amygdala has got all of this dopamine and serotonin. It's easy to program. Claim a new belief. Visualize it. Yes, I can. Oh, yeah, a little rocky punch. Yes, I can. I got this. Oh, mine, excuse me, I cuss on Thursdays. Oh, hell yeah. That's mine right now. Sorry, I shouldn't cuss, but I did. And now we just interrupted that negative program first. We have to alter the negative program first before do the second part of what I call Success Accelerator, where we're going to create a new dominant. Right now, we've got a lightly dominant program in there. We're going to make a powerful dominant program, and we're going to create it, and it's going to be strong. But the key is you have to alter the negative program first. And that's what we just did. So you can already tell that you're feeling it right now. Like, whoa, this is great. Now we're going to build a new dominant success program that is going to be bulletproof. All right. So how do you do that? Well, you have to understand how the brain works. The brain works through something called neuroplasticity. And what neuroplasticity is a series of connections that the brain is interfacing with the body and with the various components in the brain. And you either got an I can neuroplasticity track, or you have an I'm afraid I can't neuroplasticity track. And when you're an entrepreneur, guess which one gets stronger? The I'm afraid I can't, I don't know how. We've got to build, using neuroplasticity, a strong, powerful network and retrain our brain. We have to turn that on, that positive program on. The cool thing, a couple of years ago, I tested this. All you got to do is do this twice a day for 7 days. The first part that we just did, and the second part I'm going to give you, and you will instill a new, powerful success mindset. Okay, so how do you do that? Well, first of all, to prove it to yourself, you're going to set a goal 1 week from now, because y'all are going to do this and I'm going to follow up with you. You're going to set a goal because the brain needs a target. And so, what would you like to have happen? I want a new client. I want 2 new leads. I want an extra amount of money for 7 days. Okay, so set a goal and make it be something that is like a little scary but cool, right? So you got to have a goal because the brain needs the picture of the goal. Now I want to caution you, entrepreneurial goals are guideposts, not endpoints. So what that means is it's not about hitting the goal or missing the goal. I'm good, I'm bad. All it is about guiding your brain. If you look at the goal, if you look at this goal that we're setting as success or failure, it's not going to work. So you've got to look at it as, am I better at this or am I not? Am I better at this or am I not? Is my mindset better or is it not? Don't lower the goal. Please don't lower the goal. So I'm going to say, everybody on here, I want you to say, I'm going to get 1 new client in the next 7 days, just to make it nice and specific. But it's not about getting the client. It's about, am I better and stronger in my mind or not? Okay, so that's what we mean by guidepost. Not, hey, it's 5 days away, I'm scared and I'm hoping I'm going to get a client. We're not going to change the goal. It's like, I want 1 new client in 7 days, but just look at it as a guidepost to gauge how effective is your brain and your ability to use this program. Consider this goal as an intention for what you want. And an intention is power. I'm putting power in it. So you got to have a goal. Everybody set a goal with me. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to do that. And I want it to be something that scares you just a little bit, but not feel like you're a failure if you don't hit it. You know, so you can make it something simple like, I want to meet 2 new prospects, or make it be a client or something 7 days from now. And if you need to be safe and do it 2 weeks from now, you can. Doesn't matter. Everybody set a goal. I'm going to give you about 15 to 20 seconds to do that. And then I'm going to give you the steps. All right, so we got a goal. 3 pieces. The first one is you need a mantra to capture the belief that the goal can and will happen. Think about those athletes. Think about Richard Branson. You've got to have a mantra that you can repeat over and over again. I can. I've got this. Yes, baby. Oh, hell yeah. Like, that's mine right now. Oh, hell yeah. Yes, I can. Something along the lines, and make it be something that's truly meaningful to you, that just grabs you. So the mantra, we're going to instill this mantra in the prefrontal cortex and in the amygdala with a mind-body connection, and we're going to reach for it every time we're afraid. We're going to reach for that mantra. So we have a goal, we have the mantra, and so what's your mantra? So give you about 15 to 20 seconds to grab that mantra. Anything you want, whatever feels good and powerful. Got the mantra. Second part is you have to shift your mood. This part was the missing piece for me for the longest time. I could do the mantra. I was trained under Tony Robbins. I didn't really understand, though, the power of our mood. And if you think about it, when we're afraid and when things feel like they're not working, what happens to our body language? Our shoulders droop, or we're not smiling as often. we're a little more down. Maybe we're in bed or we're watching a little more TV or any of that, and we don't feel in our power. And then we let that physical reality manifest and basically convince our brain that we're failing. Our body is what convinces our brain that we're failing. Let me say that again. Our body is what convinces our brain that we're failing. It's not the external event. The external event triggers the amygdala to tell the I can't story or I'm not good enough story. But what starts to happen is then our shoulders start to droop and we stop smiling and we start getting down in the dumps. And then that physiological reaction strengthens the neuroplasticity of the brain and convinces the brain that we're in a failure story. We got to change that. So we've got to find ways to alter our mood. I'm going to talk about how to do that. Smiling and clapping and jumping up and down and just saying, I use that mantra. Oh, yes, I can, baby. Oh, yes, I can. And you use your body to shift your mood. And then your mood is what stalls the program in the brain. It's that simple. Okay. So that's the piece. And this, what mood does, mood builds what Tony Robbins calls a state of certainty. And it's either a positive state of certainty or a negative state of certainty. A positive state of certainty is what we want. It's a relaxed state of trusting combined with an expectation we have the power to create what we want. Most of the time as founders, we are in a negative state of certainty. We are what if downing. If you think about it, more than 50% of the time as founders, we are in a negative state of certainty where we're convinced that we're going to fail and we can't do this and we're going to run out of money and we got to go get a job and yada, all those stories, right? We got to change that. And mood is what builds a positive state of certainty. So you're not going to allow yourself for the next week to be in a negative state of certainty. You're going to change that. And you build it with just focus and practice. I'm going to give you my go-to mechanism for changing my mood. Y'all are going to think I'm crazy, but I don't care. I just start laughing out loud. So something goes wrong. I lose a client. The loop starts. And I catch myself doing it, and do it with me. You're going to see exactly how powerful this is. And I just start laughing. Do it. Do it with, oh my God. I can't believe I lost my client. Boy, that makes me unprofitable for the month. What was I thinking? It doesn't even matter what I'm saying. The laughter altered. And look, I'm smiling again. My shoulders are popping back. Laughing out loud and being silly is one of the fastest ways to shift your mood. It works for me every single time. Every single time. When I can shift myself back into a positive by just being a fool and laughing out loud. And again, do it. Do it for just 5 seconds. Ready, set, go. Start laughing out loud. There, you're crazy. That's 3 seconds. In your mood shift, that was 5 seconds. Okay. And there's other ways you can do it. Find what works for you. But the laughing out loud is the best way to shift the mood. Well, guess what? Your body right now is reprogramming the amygdala to be in a positive state of certainty. Think about how you feel right now. Do you feel like you can hit that goal? You do. Doesn't matter about that lost client. We just laughed it off. Think about those athletes. That's what they're doing. They're breathing when they go to the sideline after Patrick Mahomes throws an interception, and they're resetting their amygdala. And then they're starting to smile. They're slapping each other, on the back. Oh, that was funny. Yeah, let's go out there and do it again. And they're shifting their mood and they're getting themselves back into a positive state of certainty. And then when Patrick Mahomes, except for the Super Bowl last year, went right out there most of the time, except last year, he forgot this, and throws a touchdown, right? Because he's able to shift. And they do it by putting this state of certainty in place by something silly, laughing, smiling, jumping up and down, punching each other, whatever. So that's it. So mood is number 2. We have a goal. We have a mantra. Yes, I can. Oh, yes, I can, girl. I got this. We use something to shift our energy and mood. For me, the go-to is laughing out loud, crazy. And then the last thing, ironically, is moving your body. When you move your body, you actually seal in the new belief and the new mood. And you can do it lots of different ways. I do it with music and dance. You can do Rocky punches, you can jump up and down, you can clap, doesn't matter. But the movement in your body, there's tons of research behind this, guys. Tons and tons of research behind this. So it's just adding a little bit of movement. Again, this doesn't take very long. Mantra, mood, move. And this combination seals in the new belief and creates a feeling of certainty around the goal. Okay. So mantra, you're going to have a mantra. Hopefully you've got yours. Mood, if you don't have anything that works for you, do the laughing out loud. And movement. And oh, by the way, if you add music, it will speed up success. Okay. I'm not going to have time for that today. But that's it. So here's what you're going to do. And I'm going to email all of you guys, and we're going to see how you're doing. You got to alter the negative program first. So that's the first step with those ABCs. Then you're going to create the new success mindset, just like we talked about: goal, mantra, mood, movement. And if you add music to it, it happens even faster. All you got to do is do it twice a day, these two practices for 7 days. I'm going to follow up with you. And if you do it, you will either hit the goal or you will be darn close. But more importantly, your mindset will have shifted. The negative program will be almost eliminated. The new program will be installed. And shortly after, you'll hit the goal. It's that simple. I'll wrap up and just say we're a place where founders gather and grow. 86.3% of our members more than double since joining. We serve people all the way from zero at $235 a month up to $30K a month. At $30K a month, it goes up to $270 a month. For those of you that are above 2 million, it's $390 a month. Very affordable, ridiculously effective. And if you want to join us, please do. And I'm going to pause the slide and take some questions.